Welcome to the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and it is time for the Week 13 updates. One big thing about the Thursday night game, Seattle versus Dallas, and of course, my DFS lineup of the week. Now, I'm not really looking forward to updating the wide receivers because, as you might recall from my rankings video, there's a lot of uncertainty with a lot of wide receivers this week, and I could look at it every single day and move guys up and down a little bit of ways each day, having guys pass each other and then falling back behind each other depending on exactly how I'm feeling that day. It's going to be a tough week for a lot of people to make a lot of decisions, especially at the wide receiver position. And the running backs are deep, though, this week. This is one of those weeks where you might be at your flex spot, dipping into your third running back instead of your third wide receiver that you might typically be putting out there. So, with that said, let's start off with the Thursday night game. One big thing from that game is just, I think the biggest thing is Geno Smith. You know, of course, DK Metcalf's amazing game. That's great. But couldn't have had it without Geno Smith putting some balls. Absolutely. He looked good. You know, on the spot. Ball throwing there for him. So that is great for all of the Seattle weapons, really, going forward. And that's my one big thing from the game, is if Geno Smith can look good going forward, that's going to be a huge help and can help, you know, DK Metcalf, probably maybe Tyler Lockett, maybe JSN, a late breakout. Probably help the running backs be a little bit more trustable and give them some opportunities along the goal line like we saw. So it was a pretty darn good game. I had a feeling that Seattle was going to give them their best shot. It took a little while, but Dallas woke up. Let's do some updating here with the quarterbacks. And I think right here might have been at least one of the changes that we're going to want to make, putting Tua up ahead of Patrick Mahomes. So there we go with Tua. And then we're going to keep CJ Stroud here just ahead of Trevor Lawrence. It's close, but we'll keep it that way. Justin Herbert, there are concerns about. Kyler Murray, definite concerns about. It's looking like both Marquise Brown and Trey McBride are probably going to play. So I came into this thinking I would lower Kyler Murray. But at this point in time, I'm actually not going to lower Kyler Murray any. It would have been probably, might have kept him ahead of Jared Goff, but behind these two. And if you're deciding between Sam Howell, Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, and you're not comfortable with Kyler Murray, thinking that, you know, those two are going to be limited at the very least and just make life a little bit harder for Kyler Murray, by all means, go right ahead. It's hairs splitting between these three, even Jared Goff, if you wanted to argue that. But I don't think we're going to make any other changes down here. I think I did a pretty good job with these rankings earlier in the week. Well, Derek Carr, let's operate under the assumption that I don't think Chris Olave, I'm not going to end up adding him into my rankings yet. He did practice in full on Friday, but I don't know. So we're going to move Derek Carr back a spot here, move Baker up, even though I don't love the upside. I do think there's a chance, however, that Carolina, just kind of like what we saw with Seattle last week, this week on Thursday, that maybe they'll kind of give Tampa Bay a game here, and Baker will have to continue to pass, and maybe there won't be able to, you know, dominate on the ground, Rachaad White, against this Carolina defense. Another reason why they might have to pass a little bit more than most teams have had to against them. So that's the upside argument, I think, there for Baker, and of course the downside for Derek Carr. Otherwise, just looking at the rest of the list, I feel comfortable with where everybody's at. So let's move on to, we'll get the easy ones done. We'll move on to the tight end position next. And so like I said with the quarterbacks, about Kyler, Trey McBride said that he's optimistic about playing this weekend. So it does look like there's optimism for that. But Dalton Schultz has already been ruled out. And so that moves everybody else up a spot here with Dalton Schultz out. There's really nobody that we're going to go ahead and trust to replace Dalton Schultz here. Maybe for DFS purposes, we could think about Brevin Jordan would be, I think, the guy that you would take the shot on there. Also, a change that I made earlier in the week, I moved Juwan Johnson up a couple of spots. So then after that, we have David Njoku. I think we still like that situation there just fine. Logan Thomas, Pat Freiermuth, Taysom Hill is an interesting one. And I think same with Juwan Johnson. A lot rests upon if Chris Godwin ends up playing or not. Surrounding it, the situation, it seems like he's as likely as anybody to actually come back this weekend from the concussion. But still, most of the time, players have not come back within 1 week from the concussion. I believe the average time so far on the season has been like 16 days that guys have been out due to concussion. So, but most people, I think the mean time would be like 1 week. Yeah, I'm gonna keep those guys there. I was thinking about moving at least Taysom up a little bit further even, but I'm not gonna do that. We're gonna keep Kyle Pitts, K. Dotton there. Is there anybody I want to move up down here? I don't think so. Gerald Everett. There's what? Well, it's looking like Keenan Allen is gonna play, but he might be limited. So let's move Gerald Everett up a couple of spots probably. And actually, we're going to go all the way up ahead of Jonnu Smith as well, too, after last week. Hunter Henry? He's playing Los Angeles Chargers. Let's keep that one there. Not that optimistic, but there we go. That is going to be the new order there. Gerald Everett up at tight end 14. And other than that, Dallas Goedert was practicing on Friday. He is doubtful, however, for the game, so we're going to continue to keep him not ranked, but there is a chance that he'll come back. If he is coming back and playing, doubtful tag does give me a little bit of concern with the wrist and everything. I'd say for now, I would at least get him up ahead of Kyle Pitts, but I don't know about putting him up ahead of the other guys. Let's do the wide receivers. All right, so the first thing that we need to do with the wide receivers is going to just drop Keenan Allen a little bit. He did not participate for the first 2 days of practice with a quad injury. He was limited, as far as I know, at least. It could have been a full participant, maybe. I think that's the one I didn't double check on, but based on the initial reporting, it looked like he was going to be limited. Either way, coming into the weekend with a quad injury, probably limit him a little bit. Don't really expect the targets to go down by too much, but it just might make it harder for him to get open, so they might go down a little bit, and also it might just be harder for him to get good clean targets or yak after catches, stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep him ahead of Mike Evans still, move him back behind Michael Pittman. These are the guys who I really feel confident in having good weeks. Mike Evans, I start to have some concern, so that's where we'll drop him. And there he is. Up next, Tank Dell seems likely to play, is a note I have. So is there anything else I want to do up ahead of Tank Dell? I don't believe so. Feel pretty confident in what we did earlier in the week there. Yeah, and then Nico Collins, what we are going to do with that news, though, with just Tank Dell being a little bit banged up, it just might be more of a Nico Collins week this week. As you can see from my projections, it's pretty darn close for the season there. So that's the route we'll go. And just looking at this next little group, Devonta Smith, Jamar Chase, Adam Thielen, Terry McLaurin, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley. I'm not going to mess with that group. As much as nervous as I am for Jamar Chase and Adam Thielen specifically, that's just kind of where they're going to have to be at roughly this week. So unless I bring somebody up ahead of them, which I don't think will get that far, I like that group. Then Puka Nacua is another guy who I don't love, but man, at a certain point, you just got to play him and hope for the best. There might be a couple of guys we're going to end up moving ahead of him, though. But Garrett Wilson, we are going to drop back in the rankings here. And I wrote myself to drop him behind the Pittsburgh duo. And I think I still want to do that. I have some optimism for this Pittsburgh duo going up against Arizona there. And then the next note I have is, I guess, essentially dropping Puka. Moving Courtland Sutton, DeAndre Hopkins ahead of Puka. I know I want to move Courtland Sutton ahead of Puka. The big question is do I want to do that with DeAndre Hopkins as well? And I am slightly optimistic about Will Levis this week to some small extent. But I'm slightly optimistic about Puka with the Cleveland injury, banged up, and then they're going to be short Denzel Ward. I don't know. There's just too much smoke around Puka and his health from people who've been watching him closely. Let's take the shot on DeAndre Hopkins. The matchup gauge likes it more too there, so we'll do that. But we'll keep Puka ahead of these guys, which is going to bring us to Marquise Brown, who is trending in the right direction to play. But, he might be banged up going up against Pittsburgh. They got Minkah Fitzpatrick coming back and a little bit healthier. And I do think that maybe maybe not. I put Cooper Kupp too low. I'm going to put him up the one spot here with Denzel Ward being ruled out officially up ahead of Marquise Brown with those concerns. I'm really concerned about Arizona this week. And, I don't know. And we've also got injury concerns for Jaden Reed, but he has not been ruled out or anything like that. So it might be something I'll feel out on Wednesday, how I'm feeling. But I do want to put Amari Cooper ahead of him. So I'm not specifically dropping Jalen Reed here, but we're going to get Amari Cooper up at least one spot. Do I want to get him up ahead of Marquise Brown with that injury concern? With Joe Flacco playing, I'm kind of optimistic about that situation. Let's do it. Let's move him up to right behind Cooper Kupp. Oh, there he is, ranked 25th now. And I'm still concerned about Rashee Rice. Would have liked to see, more than a 1 week sample of the new target share. Going up against Green Bay, it's just not like a great wide receiver matchup, ultimately. So I'm a little concerned about that yet. I understand, though. This is a big group of guys who, if you want to argue him over Puka Nacua, go right ahead. I would be fine with that. But this time I'm going to keep him ranked. However, I am going to move Josh Downs up. I had not realized that he had 13 targets last week. He only had 5 receptions on those 13 targets, but he was targeted much more heavily than he had been recently when he had been seemingly bogged down due to his knee injury that he entered the season with too, kind of had re-aggravated it. Seems to have come out the other side of that with those 13 targets. So that's very optimistic and a solid matchup here against Tennessee. So I'm a little more hopeful for him this week. And we're going to get a little bold on him. I'm feeling like let's get him up ahead of Amari Cooper. Put him up at 25th there. And that's all I have for my notes on guys that we needed to move around. So let's just take a quick peek. So then we have Rashee Rice. Chris Godwin still here. The injury concerns, we are going to move Chris Godwin back a little bit with those additional injury concerns. We'll get him back behind Drake London. I think we're going to put him as far back as Curtis Samuel with seemingly Keenan Allen probably playing this weekend. I'm not going to get too optimistic on the Josh Palmer situation. So let's do that. 33rd there and move these guys up. All right, so popping back a spot again then, Rashee Rice, Drake London. I still think I'll take a little bit of a hope on Rashee Rice in that things have taken the final turn for him for the rest of the season over Drake London against the New York Jets. Not too optimistic about that. Christian Watson, Curtis Samuel. We'll keep him there. Then I think Tyler Boyd. Looks like T. Higgins is going to play, so we are going to drop Tyler Boyd back a little ways. At least behind Jerry Jeudy. Would I rather play Tyler Boyd than A.T. Perry? Maybe. It was pretty close, actually, but I decided to keep Tyler Boyd ahead of A.T. Perry there. Then, we're in territory. If you have questions on these guys, of course, feel free to ask them. You can see the rankings all up on the website, the full rankings. You can also see them while I'm down here. So we're going to get to guys who I have not ranked yet this week. Let's just start off with T. Higgins, who plans to play. So we're going to need to place him somewhere. Don't have a whole lot of confidence in this situation. Don't think that he's going to be playing unlimitedly. So I want to be cautious with it. And I'm looking at DJ Shark, Jonathan Mingo, Devonta Parker. I see the upside for all of these guys given the matchup there. And then we got Trey Palmer. So I think I would take the shot on T. Higgins over Trey Palmer. Khalif Raymond, yeah. We're going to move him there for now. Maybe news will come out that I'll get a little bit more bold on T. Higgins. But, Drake Browning at quarterback too. Let's be cautious about getting too excited about that. So that change is ready to go whenever I reorder these again. But then we got Noah Brown, who was quote-unquote fairly limited at practice, meant to, from what I read from it, the tone of it and following language was meant like quite a bit, not like, oh, just just a little bit limited. No, it sounds like he was heavily limited, and I do think that he might be trending towards playing, but his usage and his health are still going to be a major concern. So generally speaking, I am going to avoid him, and I'm not going to be too concerned about his impact on Nico Collins, Tank Dell. Not going to lower him because of being too concerned about Noah Brown. And for now, I'm not going to rank Noah Brown. I still want to get the final call on that, but if I do end up ranking him, I mean, I'm thinking maybe right in that behind T. Higgins type of spot is maybe where I'll go with him just for that potential upside around wide receiver 50 for me on the week. Then we've got Chris Olave, who practices in full on Friday. He still has to clear concussion protocol, though, so similar situation here. I'm just going based on the numbers. Chris Olave is not going to end up playing this weekend, but it is looking very possible, and if he does, I'm not really expecting him to be limited. So going up against Detroit, I mean, that's going to be a fantastic option that you're going to end up getting. I mean, I think I would probably park him possibly ahead of Mike Evans. I mean, the projections love him, huh? 9.8, 14.5. Yeah. I think that's probably where I'm going to end up ranking him if he is a go this weekend. Then Kadarius Toney, not worried about that. He might have been ruled out. I didn't see that or not, but let's see. I have one more. I moved Devontae Parker up prior to this, just in my rankings, a little ways with Demario Douglas being out. I had not done that, so we saw that where I ended up on Devontae Parker. A little bit of hope there for him to potentially get some targets from that. Not like he's the replacement for Demario Douglas or anything, but let's get on to the running back rankings. So I mean, it's going on like 7:30 Eastern time right now, and I don't recall seeing any kind of Travis Etienne update. So let me quick look at that. But I can say, as of this morning, from CBS's Jamie Eisenberg, he said that Etienne was banged up, and the word is that he is going to be limited via an inside source. That, of course, no other than D'Ernest Johnson will be picking up more of that work than anybody. And so D'Ernest Johnson is somebody that if he's still available for you, this is a Monday night game, so that makes things a little funky, but this is actually something they said on CBS, which I might end up doing myself. You can hold on to him. Maybe we won't know prior to game time on Sunday, though, if Etienne is playing or not. And in a moment, I'm going to look up, actually, let me look up the news first. And it was another limited practice for him, so we'll see. I think he's probably going to end up playing, but I do think that we have to take that word for being limited. What I was saying, though, is you can pick up D'Ernest Johnson if you've got an extra spot on your roster to do that. Maybe some news comes out and today or early Sunday morning where you'll feel confident in going with D'Ernest Johnson, or maybe you have another option out there, or if you're the Travis Etienne owner, go with him. And then if Travis Etienne is playing come Monday, you could always drop him and pick up Roschon Johnson if he's available in your league as well. Wouldn't be a bad idea. So, once again, credit to that idea from the CBS Sports guys this morning. And we are going to move Travis Etienne back. We're going to be a little bit cautious with that scenario for him getting limited work. I just don't want to overreact to what is essentially like a Wednesday report for Travis Etienne. I'm sure that what Jamie Eisenberg, since that was this morning, Friday morning, would have been the Thursday or the first practice of the week for Jacksonville, would have been based on that for Travis Etienne. So we'll keep him there in fifth right now. He's probably going to be climbing up a little ways shortly, though. And yeah, that's going to bring us right to Raheem Mostert. And Devon Achane is playing, so all Raheem Mostert owners can cry a sigh of relief. Our pain is here. But how painful is it going to be week one of Devon Achane returning here? I do think we're going to be seeing a bit of a three-headed horse. We're going to have to move Jeff Wilson back a little ways too. And what I did do actually already for Raheem Mostert was I took 10% off of his work here. I just cut him down by 10%. That's kind of the amount of work less I'm expecting him to get than his average on the season. So let's move him down first. Really love the matchup. I think he's darn as good of a lock as anybody for a touchdown. All right, I decided to split my little Eckler-Derrick Henry duo up there with Mostert right in between them, because I do think that if this game for Tennessee goes even a little bit sideways, that's when you start to see Tyjae Spears get used a little bit more. So there is a risk of Derrick Henry getting, a similar amount of opportunities as Raheem Mostert gets too. So that is the ultimate reasoning behind that. Austin Eckler, it hasn't been pretty as of late. But he still has that receiving upside for his floor at least. So that's where I'm going to settle on Raheem Mostert. But now we've got to, let's do the next easiest part, moving Jeff Wilson down a little ways. Definitely going to get him behind A.J. Dillon, Chuba Hubbard. I don't know for sure that we need to get him lower than like Kareem Hunt, Antonio Gibson. Yeah, no. We're going to get him back behind Gibson here as well. And actually, I'm going to move Gibson up ahead of Hunt. And then I'm going to split the difference here with Jeff Wilson. So let's see what that looks like. Antonio Gibson, Jeff Wilson, Kareem Hunt, Zeke, Dameon Pierce. Oh, gosh. Is it just me, or is Kareem Hunt still just too high? Maybe I just need to lower Kareem Hunt. So I'm going to leave it like this right now. But I might end up moving Jeff Wilson down to like running back 30. I'm still fairly optimistic about the chances of him getting a touchdown in this game, though. And then we have to move Achane up. And at what point are we willing to take that risk? I know ahead of A.J. Dillon. All right, so I'm parking Achane here, 25th, right behind James Conner for now. I definitely might, because of the matchup, once again, against Washington here. It's such a pretty matchup. I might end up putting up ahead of James Conner. At the same time, I don't know. Feels very boomer bust this week, because you got to think that he is going to be a little bit limited. I will say the head coach's statement on him was quite strong, and we are 2 days ahead of kickoff that he was determined that he'll be playing. So obviously he's not doing too bad health-wise. It's not questionable or anything like that. And the statement was just like, he's playing. Something real short, concise like that. So I am optimistic about him. I'll have to think about that. I might have to get, while we're at it, let's get Devin Singletary up ahead of Brian Robinson. And that might actually be where I have, let's actually do that. There we go. It's been done. So Devon Achane to my running back 23. Other notes that I have, I did move Zach Moss ahead of Eckler and Henry earlier on in the week. So at this point, you can see he's all the way up here at running back 10 for the rest of the week. Breece Hall did have a hamstring. He was a full participant on Friday, though. So looking good for Breece Hall. As you can see, I do have a little notation there for him. And I did rank Jerick McKinnon. He's back, probably somewhere down here. Yeah, right behind Dearness Johnson for now. And I think that's going to be all of the changes. Kind of touched upon a lot of these guys down here already. Yeah, that's going to be it for the running backs as well. So let's move on to my DraftKings lineup of the week. Okay, so I might scrap this lineup, but I want to start out by going for it all kind of here, almost. But we're going to take the discount on Jalen Waddle instead of Tyreek Hill. And then we're also going to add a contrarian play of mine with Denzel Ward being out. I do think that there's just this small feeling in the pit of my stomach that says Cooper Kupp is going to end up having a bit of a throwback game this week while none of us are suspecting it. So let's see if we can make a lineup like this. We are deep at the running back position this week, so we might be able to find a few values there. But we are going to have to spend up here for Tua at 7,900. And I do want to say we'll probably go with like A.T. Perry down here. We just take a shot on Curtis. Let's just see for now if I go with Curtis Samuel instead of A.T. Perry. Especially being full PPR, I think I would prefer that. And let's see what we can find at running backs. Not going to cost us too much. Zach Moss at 4,600 seems like you just have to do that. Gibson's a guy who I'm kind of optimistic about this week. 45 wouldn't be a bad idea. Wouldn't want to do that and Curtis Samuel. What if we do that? Let's get Curtis Samuel out of there. Let's take our shot on Gibson. Let's throw A.T. Perry in there, and then let's see what we can do with our flex in our tight end spot. And maybe we can come back and spend up a little bit differently or go back to our plan, revert that. But let's find out. I'm going to probably want to get some savings here. It does look like Myles Garrett's going to play for the Browns. He'll be in a cast and all, but still should be able to create some disruption. And we're going to go with Browns for the meantime. We'll get this tight end figured out. Do you like George Kittle? Do you like Sam Laporta quite a bit this week? Both of them. We're going to go for the big one with George Kittle here and see what we can get at flex. Got Deontay Johnson, not a bad option there. Yeah, I think we're going to do that. Deontay, we'll just spend the budget there. Finish it off with Deontay against Arizona. I kind of like that. So, Tua, Waddle, Zach, Gibson. We're taking some risks on the lineup. But this is going into one of those big tournaments. So, let's see how it goes. There is my lineup of the week. Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback, matched up with Jalen Waddle at wide receiver. Then we've got Zach Moss and Gibson in at running back, Cooper Kupp in at wide receiver, A.T. Perry, George Kittle in at tight end, Deontay Johnson in at flex, and the Browns DST. There we go. That is it. Thank you very, very much. I wish you all the best of luck this week in your fantasy football. And don't forget, you can see me in your fantasy football games, your league, your matchup. You can find me 3 hours prior to kickoff on Sunday morning here live on YouTube for all of your start state questions. So please stop in and say hi. Always nice to see you all out there. And I think that's we'll call it there. Peace out.